buildings that have been rehabbed, houses that have been rehabbed, that have the new windows in them. Now, Dick, you're a contractor, are they required on the new windows that we have put in, the double pane windows?
I don't know, new windows. I think you have to tailor it to what we want. I mean, it has nothing to do with Frankfurt and everything, that's just a guideline. A bad house in any city is a bad house.
Well, I understand, that's not what I'm talking
So
about.
I think, we can tailor, we can put whatever we want in it. Or it sounds like most of you don't want to do anything. But,
But what I'm saying-
come up with what you want to do or don't want to do, I guess that's what I would say. You go around and you see a railing fall off a staircase, You see a broken window. Those are obvious things I think you'd want to have corrected if somebody doesn't do it.
True, but that,
I don't say you penalize people at all on that, but there's obvious, just like, what was the old meat plant over there where the block wall was gonna fall down, a few years ago, you remember that? On Washington Street over here?
yeah, but that.
That would help, a safety hazard, we knew that,
Right.
And that's all I'm saying, is,
Right, but that also comes back on the homeowners themselves.
well, I agree, but you know as well as I do, a lot of homeowners don't take care of their property.
That's right.
Okay?
And a lot of them are absent landlords,
Well, sure.
rental.
Yeah, they're bad landlords. So I guess you either let things go like they are and don't care what it looks like,
I
or
don't
we have to
think,
do something,
I think it's incorrect to say don't care what they look like. I think many people, when we do these surveys, we want to fall into the poverty rate because it makes us get a grant or something. And then when we realize that we really are in a poverty community, everybody should be complying with all these rules and regulations, when sometimes they just physically, financially cannot, physically and financially cannot. So, it's a tough call, but
Yeah, but that could be part of a plan also, that you talk to somebody and they said, they're not able to physically or financially, then we have a backup plan and there's volunteer groups that do things too. I do things for my neighbors that are elderly and everything. I don't think that's a reason to say we just let a place keep going to heck. It'd be to the advantage that we help them. I agree with you that some people can't do things, but I think there's enough groups and enough people out there, we could set something up, you know what I'm saying? To say a referral maybe, that people, I'd be happy to, like I said, I got a couple of my neighbors that are in their 80s. And I think other people would too.
Can we have that coming up in a meeting where you've got that spelled out, where those volunteers would come from and what that would look like?
Yeah, I suppose we could, yeah.
And I know Frankfurt, not to compare ourselves to anybody else, but they have a Neighbors Helping Neighbors program where they have church groups that I've looked into it a few years ago, so I can't remember the details, but I think they have a different church each time somebody would come in that needed assistance, that have a different church volunteer with it. So, we can put together a proposal on what that would look like.
There's pretty groups that do it, there's all kinds of,
Well, but it's easy to say that, but until we get some kind of idea of what that looks like or whether we have commitments from it.
Well, I
mean,
agree.
it's not,
But it's the same thing as saying what's bad and what's not. It all goes hand in hand, I guess is what I'm
Right.
saying.
well, and you and I talked about a similar program back in 2015 before each of us took office. And, here we are 4 years later, we still don't have that written down or on the books. So that would be helpful too. But it's disingenuous to say that you're not going to penalize people because 156.06B is penalty and enforcement. The code official shall follow the procedures found in IC Chapter 36-7-9 regarding issue of orders and penalties for unsafe buildings. So it's there. You can't say that we're not going to do it.
But you could strike it and it wouldn't be there anymore.
Well,
We're just a base to follow,
I'm
Dale.
aware of that, but
Well, you guys keep reading into that like that's the law. It's
This
not
this is the
law.
proposal.
The penalty would likely
No,
be,
it's examples, two of them.
The penalty would likely be if the city of Delphi had to come onto the property to remediate an issue. If it got to that point, whatever the costs of the city or its contractor would be billed to the property owner. There are provisions that would allow for civil fines. I don't see the city of Delphi doing that. It would be a possibility under the unsafe building code. However, I think just whatever the city's costs going for
Don't you
that.
have the option to do a lien on the property too?
Under the
Same
unsafe,
way you do with the water, so that if that lien sits there on that policy, if those people can't pay at that time, sooner or later when that policy is sold, that lien has to be paid. So even though the city's out the money, sooner or later the city gets their money back.
or there's a provision, I'm not sure if it's under unsafe buildings, where it goes on their tax duplicate, so as part of their property taxes would be.
If you don't say something about something you don't particularly like or you have a question about, it will remain in there and it will be in the final document.
Well,
My question is, it says the code official, now who is the code official?
the unsafe building code designates the Board of Public Works and Safety as the enforcement, something. So it'd be the Board of Public Works and Safety or the designates.
That's the same ones that handle the tall grass. That goes through the Board of Works.
If there is an appeal, it does, but they're not listed as the enforcement authority. They're not listed as that for weed. But let's do this. I'll reach out to volunteer groups. If the council could highlight things they like, things they don't like, put together a list that we could combine for the next meeting and see if we can put together an ordinance that works for everybody, that would be great. Because I don't think we're gonna get there just talking about it here today. Would that work for the council?
Yep.
Are there any objections? No. All right. New business, we have proposed resolution 2019-5, read by title alone, resolution expressing interest in acquiring property to expand Morning Heights Cemetery. So last month we had talked about cemetery and the property. Mr. John Mears approached me and said he would be willing to sell the city 1 acre for $7,500 and would give the city the second acre for an equivalent amount of plots. So whatever the price of plots are, let's say it's $3,000, that equates to 25, 30 plots that we would set aside for Mr. Mears. I can't remember, whatever 7,500 divided by 300 is. 25.
7,500 is like the price of farmland. I think that's really excessive.
250 spaces, that'd be 30 spaces.
And that, so the land that's out there is currently farmed.
How many spaces does he need? What would he like to have?
35. What's that?
Sounds like win-win for both parties, right?
What's a win-win for them?
How do you figure that? You're paying $15,000 for that.
Okay, 25 parcels of each with 300.
Yeah, that's between 25 and 30. And how many of those would be set aside for the Muir family?
25 to 30 under this arrangement.
And how many you gonna get in, well, how many acres you buying first?
If it was 2 acres, I believe, based on right of way, if you had a standard 5 by 10 foot plot, or plot,
You're doing it.
space, if it was 5 foot by 10 foot, you could fit approximately 1,200 plots up there.
1,300,
Yeah.
Try to be on the line, yeah.
1,300.
Is that what I've written down?
Yes.
Okay. And that accounted for 2 gravel driveways going north-south, 2 gravel driveways going east-west. Could be plus or minus a couple hundred, but depending on if we went with 5 by 10 spaces.
You said they would sell us 1 acre for 7,500 and the other acre would be for them.
No. essentially it'd sell us 2 acres for $15,000 total, but the second acre, we would, instead of giving them 7,500, we would give them 25 to 30
Wow,
plots.
no way. That's just, I think that's way too much money. I mean, they're the ones calling the shots completely there. I mean, they want 30 graves, plus they want the money as if it were productive farmland that, you know, we'll make money off of it while we're selling those plots, but then the money stops. I mean, it's not a continuous source of income. It's just we're just paying out that money. I just think that's too much money.
Well, especially at $8 a grave, like what the current
But
rate
you
is, right?
cannot stay at
Right.
$8
Right. I wouldn't think so.
Obviously, do this. You have to seriously look at the recommendations of Carl Adams, what the other cemeteries are doing.
What did you say, like 250 a lot? Okay, 250 a lot.
So if you give them 30 spaces, you're giving him $7,500 worth of spaces.
Right.
So if you're paying him $15,000.
No, sorry. You're paying him 5,000 and you're paying him 7,500 and giving him 30 spots. Sorry.
So you're not paying 15, you're paying.
Right, sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But your total cost is 15 then.
Oh, if you're accounting for the amount
Well,
of
sure,
plots you're giving.
you have to.
That's,
If you sold 1,300 lots at 250, that's $325,000.
Well, I agree that we ought to go ahead and expand the cemetery and have a potential for the spots and certainly to provide that family. I have no objection to that, but I just have an objection to their proposed cost.
What would be a more reasonable amount to you, Carol? 5,000?
Well, I think it should be a negotiated price, certainly, you know, we're just, okay, this is what we want, and you say, sold? No, I don't think so.
Well,
what's that? I thought you were waiting on the train. We letting them
I have
do
a
the
quick
public
question.
speak?
Are you saying you can put 1,300 plots on an acre of land?
No, on 2 acres. At 5 by 10 with gravel drives and some right of way.
Because we were back here going, okay, on 2.
Although they do, actually the 5 by 10 standard is for actually a double deep. So that'd be one buried on top of the other. There's a national cemetery standard. So 1,300 plots is what I calculated, more or less what you could fit.
So that would be, you're calculating 1,300, not counting the roads going in to get to those.
That calculation
Includes that?
had where all the roads are. And there's a bit of right of way and fencing if we're gonna match.
How many acres are out there now, do you know?
4.
And do you know how many plots are on it now?
I do not, but that's kind of a mishmash of, if you look on a map of, let's say, the Deer Creek Cemetery up on Armour Road versus out there is kind of helter-skelter compared to the organization of,
So if you were to compare it to the one up on Armory Road, 2 acres up there, is that 2 acres?
I don't know. I'm just saying in terms of how it's plotted, out there is a little, I don't know, maybe all the headstones, some of them are gone, but it seems a little more disorganized.
I don't think so. You have to know what you're doing out there. Look at the plot bed.
How much space do we have now? That many space don't,
There's really, technically, legally, we shouldn't sell the space out there. Because I can't prove it.
There's nothing there.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we brought the records up to date and done back in the old records out of boxes and put them together, but There's a lot of spaces out there there's other families buried on, because it's all done on six spaces to a lot. So there'll be family on maybe 4, and the other 2 don't show anything. But some of that family died in the 40s. So you think those haven't all been used, the probability is that they have been, and so how do you sell it? And there's very few of those even. So there's really no legal space to sell out there. We sold 1 space out there since 2009, since October of 2009. So those spaces have been bought a long time ago simply because of the price. But
So that puts a question into my mind, is there even a market for?
you're out of space. You're almost out of space at the Catholic cemetery. You're out of space almost at the Masonic cemetery.
So,
You
probably.
look how your Pittsburgh cemetery is filling up already. Yes, there's a market for it. There's a lot of people within this community that has family out there, that it's a natural inclination to want to be, whether you're close or not, but to be within the same cemetery as your family. So there'll always be a desire to go out there. Plus the actual view out there, the calmness out there, that's an ideal spot for a cemetery. So, if you like cemetery.
Is it an option to buy 1 acre, or is it contingent upon taking the 2nd acre at their terms?
I'm sure it's an option to buy 1. Logistically, it doesn't look as good if you buy 1, because you want to have a double drive to get in and out, going off of a 10-foot lane, which is what we have there now. You could do a 20-foot lane, I guess, and get in and out, but
How much property is that gonna take off of the 2 acres then by putting a 20-foot lane all the way around?
it was 163 feet wide and 535 feet long. If you did I was going by 10 foot and then have 2 in the middle. I can calculate that up.
Well,
Not right now, but.
well, yeah, I know, but what I'm saying is because when you go through the roadway, go through the cemetery, you lose that much ground. So you won't have near as many.
I took that into account when I got
So those figures include that.
Mr. Nelson.
I was just gonna ask the council if you guys had any recent estimates on what an acre of tillable land costs in general compared to an idea about what the comparable acre would cost.
It's about 7,500 to 10,000. I mean, depends on who's bidding, of course. If somebody really wants it, they'll pay 10, 12. But in most cases, I would say 6,000 to 7,000.
Here's an old saying for you. They don't make a plan. You can invest a lot of money in a lot of different things, whether it's antiques, whether it's diamonds, whether it's real estate property, whatever you want. They make cars, but they don't make more land. So you've got a cemetery, a city cemetery, that you're out of space. You've got a cemetery that you paid $8 a space for, and that you have to, for the rest of eternity, maintain that cemetery. Does it not make sense to pick up 2 acres of land, change the price of the lots, and not saying make money, but pay for yourself for a while? Eventually you won't. You'll be in the same boat, but you are going to change the structure, and you are going to allow people to have access to bury their family. And like I said, they don't make land anymore. Right next door, it's right beside you. It's there at the pits. So
I guess,
it's an ideal situation.
Councilwoman Pearson, if this passed, which gave the authority of the city to pass, would you work with me in developing a reasonable counteroffer to the Mearses?
Sure. Does anybody else have comments regarding does that seem, I mean, that's just my opinion, that I think it's, you know, it's
Can we
an
go buy
offer for
land
them,
somewhere
it's
and
not
have it
a
zoned
counter.
as a cemetery?
I'm sorry.
Can we go buy land somewhere and have it zoned as a cemetery? Does the city have that option?
I think that would be foolish, but, I mean, when there's the cemetery right there, we have to maintain it anyway. It makes sense to just expand
What you do
that
now?
cemetery.
Can you still do family plots like they used to do out there? Buy land, can you take your land and section it part of
I
the family cemetery?
I think technically you can, but the reporting requirements on them are so high that when this first came about, it's in a decline a bit because they have to do so many things to maintain it and report it to the state that I think that it's not as common as it probably used to be.
Yeah.
But they certainly exist, but
Well, probably years ago, they didn't even report it.
I mean, yeah, they have to have a board, they have to have someone maintaining it, someone reporting it, someone reporting the plots, keeping the plot maps,
Sure,
so
but I think you could probably still be done if you wanted to.
I think so. I don't know the reason why not.
The 25 or 35 plot they want, they will be paid for when they are buried there. Or they get paid for,
They're
or
just
they're
paid.
justified
They're
just for
free.
their family so that their family, whole family can be buried there?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
They're free, yes, to their.
They're given to them as part of this.
We give them those plots, they give us 1 acre of land.
It's 25 at the new price of $250, it's only $6,250.
Yeah, I know what that is.
But it said 25 to 30.
Right, we have
Yeah.
35, is that?
Very mostly, it's 30 spaces, you're looking at $7,500. If you're gaining 1,300 spaces, that's a small amount to give up that figure. And that is known as, yes, it's the Morning Heights Cemetery, but you talk to any of the old timers around this area and they call it the Mirror Cemetery. It's also known as the Mirror Cemetery. Walk out there and look at all the Mirrors family that's buried out there. But they're out of spaces too. They're out of it.
How does the council wish to proceed?
I'm asking for public input, and my opinion was, my initial opinion was, that sounded too high, and it was just an initial offer. No negotiating with us. I think there is room for negotiation. I'm not saying, I just think it sounds high.
I was just gonna say, so as somebody interested in buying some farmland, I agree with your point of, if you're willing to pay it, if you're willing to go high, you'll pay it. But, I would say that from what I've seen recently, 7,500 for a tillable acre is on the very low end, period. On the highest end, $11,000 a tillable acre, and that's if you're really wanting it and willing to pay for it. Just,
You're talking about 2 acres, 7,500, and if you give them 30 lots, that's another 7,500. So that's 7,500 an acre. I'm saying we include the plots they want. So if that's a going rate, that's what it is. I mean, you're not out of anything. You're gonna, you sell them all, which will take some time, but that's $325,000 at $250. Which we pay to maintain and everything like that,
For one.
To establish, yeah, right, but to establish a new one, it's pretty expensive. I know some, there was one established in Lafayette 10 years ago, by Mr. Purdy, Meadowview. And of course, he put paved roads in and everything, but to establish, he had to go through a lot to get approved by the state and everything, I know. And he spent a lot of money.
Yeah. So I assume all we have to do there is annex, right? I mean, we're just extending.
Yes, it would probably not hurt to get a survey done, since it's probably not been touched for several years, and make sure we get clear boundaries and legal agreements. Yeah, definitely that, which they would catch any lien issues and you're gonna protect yourself from that.
Yeah.
Hasn't been done.
So whose expense is that?
Well, I think if we're talking counter proposal and both parties mutually benefit from this, I would be saying your counter needs to involve what you think is an appropriate price, what you think is an appropriate amount of cost, and split the cost of the survey, or to say they pay for it, I don't know, but split the cost of the survey. It's not, you're talking probably less than $1,000 for the survey. I mean, probably closer to 400 title search, 2 acres. Once they split it. But I would think the high points need to be what your counter price is, what you counter with the amount of plots you wish to give them, and then the closing costs, if any, survey, title search needs to be split. Because there's no, you don't want to just blindly buy land and not have a title search, make sure there aren't lien issues that we don't know about, clause in the title we're not aware of, make sure the legal description and boundaries are correct. That's all done in one fell swoop, and I would never not do that. That would be a huge risk that the city would be taking, and not have any title insurance. Got it.
Makes sense.
I think you want to protect yourself, protect your investment. For as much as it is, it's well worth it. Every penny of it's worth it. Yes.
How much time does Aaron spend? Greg, do you know how much time Aaron would spend out there mowing with them?
They hire it out. We contract that out.
Sometimes townships maintain them, there's different.
Township contracts theirs out.
Okay.
Any further discussion amongst the council? Council wish to proceed to authorize the purchase subject to negotiations.
I move that we do subject to negotiating the price.
Second.
Motion and a second. If I may restate, it's a motion to approve resolution 2019-5, subject to renegotiating the price. And second, you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Move next to proposed resolution 2019-6. Read by title alone, a resolution expressing interest in acquiring NDOT access land on the west side of Freedom Bridge. So I put in the memorandum, this is NDOT access land. Last year, they contacted me expressing that they wanted to sell this land, that they had a valuation on it done, and that it was $1,375 is what it was valued at. I tried to argue with them that that land should come back to us anyway pursuant to our agreement regarding Freedom Bridge, because it says that the approach and any opportunities to the approach shall revert to the city of Delphi. They did not see that the same way. But with us getting $1.275 million from DNR to do the asphalt trail, and with us having the plazas there on either side of Freedom Bridge, I think it's in the city's best interest to control that parcel on the west side of Freedom Bridge, which is currently being used. It's parking, it's got a little gravel drive off of 300 North going up there. So that's my opinion on the matter, but we'll open it up for council discussion.
So the cost now still is
$1,375 is what the valuation was that they expressed to me.
where would we take that money from?
I think rainy day would be a good candidate. This is something that
And how many, just
I don't know off the top of my head. I think it would have to be, it has to be split anyway because their map shows it going across Hoosier Heartland. And I think it's just all on the west side of the Hoosier Heartland. So I don't know the acreage.
well, the reason I say it, because we acquired and we've got to maintain it.
I think Superintendent Lyons has been maintaining a lot of that up there. I won't say the totality of it, but a lot of it's pretty low maintenance. It's a lot of wild grasses that just grow up. Besides the gravel area, which the canal's done a good job of maintaining the gravel drive and the parking lot.
Well, excuse me, the only reason I say that is Aaron had quite a bit of mowing to begin with. I mean, I'm over 40-some acres, so that's why I asked how many acres it would be. Evidently, he's been mowing it anyway, so.
This is resolution 2019-6.
Yes, ma'am. Any other discussion?
What will we be doing with that? Do we have a plan for it, or we can purchase it first and develop a plan?
Well, if anything, it protects our interest in Freedom Bridge and the plaza. You can access Freedom Bridge, however, it's all on private property that's owned by nonprofit organizations, private property nonetheless. I think the development of a secondary parking area, if we're using Miller Park as a parking area, but really, I don't think we'd have too much different up there than what we have now.
I think some of these things would be more palpable if we had the plan in place prior to doing it. I think it'd be less questionable or less, you know, it certainly would be easier for me if I could have a vision or have some kind of idea of what we're going to do with some of this stuff. I mean, we get this every once in a while, and there's, you know, just to have land doesn't thrill me at all. But if we got a plan for doing something with it prior to purchasing it, it'd probably make it a lot easier to go through.
I doubt that we would do much more with it than what we do now. However, it's...
If it were a parking area, I think that could be beneficial. I think maybe some of that park area might be better used if there was parking available there.
Right, which we've been, well, I think the gravel drive was put in by contractors, but then was kind of shored up by the Wabash Area Canal Association on NDOT's land. And we haven't done a curb cut because it is NDOT land, and I don't even know if the county's taken that road yet.
I think I would move for approval of resolution 2019-6.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, sorry, Judge, we're getting to you here soon. So I put on the agenda to discuss the future of Delphi City Court. If anybody on the council or the public knows an attorney in good standing who resides within the corporate boundaries of the city of Delphi, we'd be more than happy to get a list of names together. The Delphi City Court judge